Come on, just show me what you got. Going fast is cool, going slow is not.
November 24th, 1992. Sonic Tuesday. Sonic 2 is released, and Sonic Mania, no, not that one, is in full swing, and my 6-year-old self is over the moon. Sonic the Hedgehog was the first video game I ever played, and because I immediately fell in love with the blue blur and video games, I soon got my very own Sega Genesis. And, of course, the brand new Sonic the Hedgehog 2, a game that made Sega a true rival to Nintendo. A game that cemented what a Sonic game is. A game whose virtues have been called into question.
Okay. I think we're at the point where we need to admit that this was never really a great franchise.
Nope.
And that we keep trying and trying and trying to find this thing that was never really actually there.
Sonic was never good.
Yeah,
It was a 25-year lie.
Yes.
What? Bro, what are you talking about?
Today we look back on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, its development, its original plot, its release, its impact, and finally we ask if it was ever good. The development. After the success of the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega almost immediately began development into a sequel. 2, in fact. One of which would eventually become the game Sonic CD. The game that would become Sonic 2 began in San Francisco at the newly created Sega Technical Institute, or STI. STI was founded by legendary designer Mark Cerny, fresh off of designing and programming Marble Madness at age 18. Cerny enjoyed the idea of building a smaller company with American and Japanese developers. Sega wanted more games created that would cater towards American tastes. Thus, STI was born. An early Japanese hire was Hirokazu Yasuhara, the gameplay and level designer of the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Yasuhara had left Sega after pay disagreements, and Cerny was quick to grab him up and have him move to the United States. Speaking of pay disputes, Yuji Naka, the lead programmer and man most often attributed as the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, had also left due to pay disagreements. You guessed it, Mark Cerny quickly picked him up as well, where Naka not only got better pay, but would also have creative control. Seeing as Cerny now had 2 of the 3 men most responsible for Sonic the Hedgehog's creation at his studio, he asked Sega if they could develop a sequel. And Sega of America Marketing said,
Nope.
It was too soon after the original to start on a sequel. 2 months later, they were told to start on the game immediately and that they had only 11 months to produce that sequel. However, Yuji Naka would not work on a Sonic sequel, unless it included 2-player gameplay, something he'd envisioned for the first game but was cut for time. This necessitated the creation of a new character to be Player 2. A competition was held both at STI and in Japan for designing this new character. Eventually, level designer Yasushi Yamaguchi won with his character Miles Prower. The team loved the design, but hated the name, so they renamed the character to Tails. However, Yamaguchi, being level designer, decided to stick the character's original name in as many stages and areas as possible. And so, canonically, the character is Miles Prower, but his nickname is Tails. 29 years later, no other Sonic character shares this naming convention. With Yuji Naka on board and Tails firmly in place, the team went about designing the story. And what a story they set out to tell. The island the game takes place on would have 5 different zones, named here as Green Hill Zone, Ocean Wind Zone, Woods Zone, Sand Shower Zone, and Metropolis Zone. Then Robotnik would escape Sonic and time travel into the past. Sonic would use a hidden shrine to follow after Robotnik. Hirokazu Yasuhara provided these planned sketches of the shape of the Sonic 2 story, showing multiple timelines Sonic and Tails would travel through chasing down Robotnik, until eventually defeating him in outer space. Zones like Green Hill would become Chemical Plant Zone in a ruined present, created by Robotnik's time travel shenanigans. To say STI's plans were ambitious is a bit of an understatement. 18 zones, 5 timelines, 2-player co-op, and competitive modes, and all completed in 11 months. Naturally, they bit off more than they could chew. As the November 1992 deadline loomed, They cut most everything they set out to do. The medieval time era was dropped immediately. The time travel plot soon followed. Levels like Casino Night, Chemical Plant, and Oil Ocean, developed with alternate timelines in mind, were just moved into the present day. Other zones were cut entirely, such as Wood Zone, Dust Hill, Blue Lake, and Genocide City. Ah yes, Genocide City. Can't just show that name without an explanation, now can I? It appears the Japanese designers didn't fully understand the word genocide, and chose it simply because it sounded cool. It was changed to the more family-friendly Cyber City Zone. Cyber City Zone stayed in development long enough to have a full map design for it, which was later repurposed to become Metropolis Zone Act 3, my least favorite zone and act in the game. So maybe everything Cyber City should have remained unproduced. Finally, there's the most famous cut zone in Sonic history, Hidden Palace Zone. This zone was almost included in Sonic 2, as the player could access it via level select code hidden in the sound test menu. It even had its own unique music track to go along with it. Hidden Palace Zone was supposed to be a hidden level that the player unlocked after gaining all 7 Chaos Emeralds. They would go here to attain the supersonic power. Hidden Palace Zone would later be finished and fully playable in the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 port to Android and iOS in 2013. After all the cuts, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 ended up being 11 zones long, and its story was left in tatters, essentially only being about chasing Robotnik around an island until eventually defeating him on the Death Egg in space. Granted, no one was playing Sonic the Hedgehog for its storytelling, but it is disappointing to see these randomly themed zones just thrown together haphazardly in the final product. Still, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 released November 1992 to critical acclaim and huge commercial success. Not bad for a team that spoke 2 languages and only had 11 months to work with. The gameplay. Sonic 2's gameplay didn't set out to revolutionize the series. They didn't have the time. Instead, it further refined the gameplay present in Sonic 1. The biggest new features are, of course, Tails as the second character, Sonic's speed increase, and the spin dash attack. Sonic and Tails are exactly the same in every single way in Sonic 2. The only difference is cosmetic. Tails is just as fast and can jump just as high, and can even be played solo without Sonic if the player prefers. In his first appearance, he lacks any ability to fly. Players would have to wait until Sonic 3 to get that ability. His inclusion also allowed for a 2-player versus mode to be implemented. Players would race in 4 separate zones against one another, trying to get the best time in most rings. The split screen caused massive frame rate drops, and while occasionally racing was fun, it was not really a mode my family played much. It was hard to see, making some platforming difficult, and although 6-year-old me had no idea what frame rate was, I knew it played awful. This footage is from the Xbox 360 port. The frame rate is fine, and the image quality is much better than it was in '92, but this is still not a fun way to play Sonic. Tails also could follow Sonic in a single-player game. The computer would more or less mirror your actions when it could. Tails would sometimes help out, but mostly was an inoffensive addition to the game. Until the special stages, but I'll talk about that more later. The cool thing with Tails was that by plugging in a second controller, another player could play a somewhat decent co-op game. Sonic retains complete control of the camera. It's player one's game first and foremost, so Tails can fly off in a different direction and despawn, or fall to their death, and then a few seconds later Tails would fly back down like nothing happened. So what can player 2 do? They can attack any enemy, including bosses, collect rings, and most importantly, they can take hits without losing rings. Very quickly, anyone with a younger sibling would put them on the second controller. My favorite memories with this game are of me and my sister going through it. It was one of the best 2-player cooperative games on the system, even if player 2 could also mess you up. Sonic's speed was also emphasized. The original game had a pretty aggressive speed cap on the character, but more importantly, a lot of zones were designed with platforming or puzzle solving in mind. Sonic in Sonic 2 has a mostly uncapped speed limit, allowing skilled players to go fast enough that Sonic leaves the camera behind. Sonic speedrunners are capable of incredible speeds on nearly every level. Each level is also designed with multiple paths to explore and discover. This was an era of video games where there were no save states. You played the opening handful of zones over and over again, and it was important that these zones were fun and offered enough secrets and shortcuts to stay engaging. There's only 2 directions to travel, and 1 face button that does everything. But it's extremely hard to master. Special mention goes to Chemical Plant Zone for being the fastest zone in the game. Introducing to the series the Boost Pad, which was only found in this one zone. And keeping with that focus on speed, we got a brand new attack with the Spin Dash. The Spin Dash is such a great addition to Sonic's moveset that even as a child I found it incredibly difficult to play Sonic 1 without it. Press down and jump and you can charge up your spin attack, giving Sonic not just a new ground attack but also a quick burst of speed. Much of Sonic's level design is based around slopes. Sonic's movement in particular is all about cultivating and utilizing momentum. Coming to a dead stop, especially by a slope, brings the enjoyment to an end. The Spin Dash painlessly fixes this, so even if you flub a segment of the game, a mere 2 button presses later you're right back to top speed again. Masterful.
And about his attitude. Smarty pants! Why can't it be more like that nice boy Mario? Oh!
Design philosophy. Super Mario Bros. World 1-1 is taught in class for a reason. It's elegant and splendid, teaching the player new concepts effortlessly, all while going at the speed of the player's skill. A new and experienced Mario player will go through it at a different pace. It's great, but enough YouTube videos exist proclaiming that greatness. Human beings love to categorize and quantify things. If something is good, then we need to know why it was good, and then use that as an example to define what is bad. And I think over the last 20 years, we've spoken so much about Mario 1-1 that we assume any 2D platformer that doesn't follow Mario's example must also be bad. And I think that's why so many people talk about how Sonic games just aren't very good. They're not Mario. They don't introduce new concepts or enemies in a safe manner first and then slowly increase the difficulty on the player. But that doesn't mean that they're bad game design either. After all, multiple roguelites and Metrovanias do not follow this design philosophy. Sonic is about speed. Slowing the player down to explain a new mechanic or concept would be antithetical to the experience. Instead, you fly headfirst into new enemies and concepts. And this is why the ring mechanic is so integral to the Sonic experience. You never necessarily need more than 1 ring to survive, giving you multiple attempts at a boss to learn its attacks, or to solve some navigation or puzzle with spikes and enemies. You even blink after getting hit, granting Sonic some invincibility frames and some measure of intangibility to chase down those rings, or to allow a player to skip segments of the level, if they know how to. Each zone also has multiple paths. The player cannot know that when they just start, but if you miss a jump or lose too much speed to clear an obstacle, there is a chance that you can keep going on a lower path. That path might have water, more enemies, or just be a detour that slows Sonic down. But you keep moving forward, even if you make a mistake. This isn't true for any other platformer at the time. They offered one path, and navigating that one path was the challenge. This rush out and learn as you go attitude to level design also mirrors Sonic's own 90s radical attitude.
Oh! Little brat!
Sonic isn't one to try one path over and over again. He's got things to do. And it's not like Emerald Hills doesn't start off similarly to World 1-1 either. Right at the beginning, you can see 3 rings in the air. How do you reach them? You probably have to jump. You collect those rings, but you notice Sonic moves just a little slower up this incline. And just on screen you see 3 more rings. You go and you grab these new rings, and instead you get hit by a coconut. You now know that there are enemies, and that the rings you grab can spill out of you. Rings are important, and it's okay to make some mistakes. You head forward and you see a weird monitor. You can't reach it yet, and you see that you can jump up onto this different path. Here you see the steepest slope yet, but if you back up, you can go up it faster. And if you get a lot of speed, say by a spin dash for example, you can fly up into the air. Wow, Sonic is all about building and maintaining momentum, you think? And right here, at this platform, you can see rings in the ground. How do you get there? You try to move into the wall that they're inside and you learn that there's a hidden pathway. This style of game design encourages speed and exploration. And these are cornerstones of any good Sonic game. The zones. Emerald Hill Zone is a classic, teaching the player how to play. It's sunny, bright, and in 2021, it's hard to see it, but it's absolutely stunning compared to what people were used to seeing in video games up until that point. S tier. Chemical Plant Zone has a simple focus: speed. Long straightaways let the player build up incredible speed, augmented by booster pads, which again only exist in this zone. Future games would place them quite liberally to the point that a few of the modern games overuse them. There's also the purple water, which exists mostly as a punishment to players that mistime their jumps or fall from higher paths into the slower lower paths. There is also this choke point with these moving platforms, which has been the death of many Sonic players. But with some trial and error, they're very easy to learn how to do, minimizing any time spent in the purple water. A tier. Aquatic Ruin Zone is all about paths. If you stay on the top path, learn the platforming and the obstacles that you have to clear, you can do this zone without ever touching the water. And thankfully, you'll never see a drop of water ever again after this zone. Even if I've never managed to stay on the top path. S tier. Casino Night Zone is all about exploration. There's only a handful of enemies in the zone, and the sole enemy type is the Crawl Badnik, which moves very slowly and is one of the least threatening badniks in the game. The slot machines and the open level design allows the player to stockpile rings for extra lives, or to use the star post to collect any Chaos Emeralds they might be missing. This zone also has the best Robotnik fight in the game, utilizing Sonic's momentum and speed dash to get in hits. It is a masterclass of Sonic fights. S tier. Hilltop Zone takes place in volcanic mountains high above the clouds. Despite racing against rising lava and platforming to avoid being crushed, this is an extremely laid-back zone. I think part of that is the cool blue aesthetic mixed with the incredibly upbeat music. I also love the use of hidden invincibility monitors that allows Sonic to speed through the lava sections, always rewarding exploration and replaying. B tier. Mystic Cave Zone is all about platforming challenges, avoiding traps, pulling switches, and jumping over spike chasms. This is all classic Sonic platforming at its very best. Plus, the music here slaps. A tier. Oil Ocean Zone. It's fine. Doesn't particularly have a strong focus, other than it has oil slides. There's nothing too good or bad, although these seahorses are annoying. C tier. Metropolis Zone is the only 3-act zone in the game, and as a child it tended to be the point where I stopped playing. It's also the last zone where Tails is playable by the second player, ending any attempt at a cooperative play with a sibling. This zone is a miserable time, because of enemies and their downright evil placement. You can't build up too much speed or a mantis or crab will hit you. Are you trying to make a jump to that platform? Crab. Trying to make a jump up to this platform? Mantis. And then there's these starfish badniks, which explode and shoot out these little thorn things to hit you. If you're going up or down these nuts and bolts and the starfish pops, there's a good chance you're falling back down, where you now can't continue until you move far enough away to reset the nut and bolt. It is tedious. This is a bad level, and the fact that it goes on for 3 acts is regrettable. F tier. Sky Chase Zone is the only auto-scroller in the game. You move at the speed of this plane. No faster, no slower. The threat isn't too much either. This zone gets a lot of hate, and I'm not going to say it's a great mission. But back in the 90s, without saves, this mission was a godsend. After Metropolis Zone and all of its frustrations, and right before the frustrations of the last 2 zones, this was a really good way to catch your breath. It's mostly harmless. It's kind of an interactive cutscene. C tier. Wing Fortress Zone is the last full zone in the game, and it's nearly perfect. It has a transition scene leading up to it and at the finish. Enemies are placed in fair locations. It's challenging like the final platforming focused zone should be. The problems? This doesn't read like a jump you could do. And these thrusters look like they should hurt. But you can easily make that jump, and these thrusters don't seem to hurt. As a way of reading what you can do, these are confusing. And this section is awful. Sonic isn't great at precision platforming, but here you need to be very precise and fast to make it. It's garbage, and for years, it was as far as I ever got in the game. Also, the boss sucks. D tier. Death Egg Zone is all about boss fights. You have no rings and you have to defeat the two worst bosses in the game right after one another. First up is Mecha Sonic. It has a very specific attack pattern which it will never deviate from. The lack of rings means that there is a fair bit of trial and error, but once you learn its moves, it's incredibly simple. Of course, coming after Metropolis and Winged Fortress zones, you're likely low on extra lives, so you don't have too many chances to learn how Mecha Sonic behaves. That's a problem with Mecha Sonic, but it's a bigger problem with the next fight, the Death Egg Robot. I hate this fight with a passion. I was out of high school by the time I finally went back and beat this boss. It's not particularly tough. It telegraphs its jump attack by whole seconds. Its arm attack is easily outranged just by standing in a far corner. The problem is not only the fact that it takes forever to get 12 hits in to defeat it, but also its hitbox is incredibly inconsistent. Sometimes you just get hit while attacking him, or bounce right back inside the robot for some reason. And then it's from the start again against Mecha Sonic. This is a terrible end to the game. F tier. Overall, most of the game is fantastic. The theming is great, the individual zones, which focus on speed, platforming, and exploration are all great. Once you hit Metropolis Zone Act 1, the game starts dive bombing in quality, and it never recovers. Finishing the game feels like a triumph, but previously everything felt like a joy. I don't think the tension release of beating the Death Egg Robot is worth that trade-off. Oh, I almost forgot. The special stages. The faux 3D half-pipe effect looked amazing back in '92. It was way better than the special stage from the original game. I've never been very good at it. In fact, without utilizing save and load functions found in the various remasters, I've never cleared them all. But despite not being good at it, or particularly enjoying it, I think they're worthwhile. The best things about the special stages are the improvements around them. Entering special stages happens at Star Post if you have 50 rings. First, jump into the Ring of Stars and attempt to nab a Chaos Emerald. That's much better than Sonic 1, which required 50 rings at the finish of a stage that then allowed you to jump into a special stage ring. The Star Post give the player a lot more attempts than Sonic 1 ever did. In fact, it's possible to get all 7 Chaos Emeralds before reaching Chemical Plant Zone, but it's not all great. Each section has a special stage requiring a certain threshold of rings to proceed. The number varies between solo characters and playing as Sonic and Tails. If you're playing as both Sonic and Tails, you need more rings to proceed. That's not too bad if you have a player 2 who can keep up, or at least avoid the bombs on the track. But if you're by yourself, Tails follows Sonic with a near full second delay, meaning in the toughest stages where you're zipping between bombs to collect rings, Tails is colliding headfirst into them. And when Tails hits bombs, he drops rings. The higher ring requirement and the handicap of Tails constantly hitting every bomb makes playing as Sonic and Tails incredibly frustrating. But the other huge improvement is the reward for collecting all 7 Chaos Emeralds, Super Sonic. Now collect 50 rings in any zone and jump. You'll transform into Super Sonic. As Super Sonic, you have crazy speed and invincibility. It feels like you're playing with a cheat code enabled. If you want to clear all 7 special stages and unlock Super Sonic, I'd recommend just playing as Sonic. One last note on Super Sonic, if you're playing the game with Knuckles, you can also unlock a Super Knuckles power-up. It behaves exactly like Super Sonic. But if you're playing as Tails, there is no Super Tails to unlock. So while Tails in this game is essentially just a different sprite of Sonic, you're actually penalized for playing as Tails. In conclusion, Sonic 2 was another massive success for Sega. It's the second highest selling Genesis game ever, behind Sonic 1. The lessons learned here were further built upon by Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. And while this level of quality wouldn't be maintained with future Sonic games, the highs and achievements of these first 4 games isn't undone by those later games. All Sega wanted was a mascot to rival Mario. But thanks to the hard work of some very talented designers, these Sonic games have withstood the test of time. I think it's still worth playing in 2021. It's still fun and challenging, and because Sega loves it as much as its fans do, it's never really been unavailable. It's been ported to nearly everything. But if you'd like to play it, there are 2 ports in particular that are outstanding. The best is the iOS and Android port from 2013 by the same guys that made Sonic Mania. It's perfection. But if you'd like this in something other than a phone or an emulator on a PC, then the next best thing is Sega Age's Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Both versions of the game have the option to play as Knuckles. This isn't completely out of nowhere. Back when Sonic and Knuckles came out, its lock-on technology added Knuckles to both Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. Knuckles isn't just Sonic with a different sprite though. For one, he cannot jump nearly as high as Sonic, which makes certain boss battles that much more difficult. But what really separates Knuckles is his ability to glide and climb. And knowing kids would start climbing everything in Sonic 2, the team at STI actually added new hidden locations for Knuckles to find. They didn't have to put in such effort to Sonic and Knuckles lock-on cartridge, but they did. And I'm grateful to have multiple ports that include Knuckles in honor of that team and their efforts. Between these 2 releases, there's really no reason to not give Sonic 2 a chance. It's a great game, and it always was. If you'd like to know more about Sonic 2's development, please check out Sonic Retro. This video would not have been possible without them. And as always, thanks for watching.